Hello. In this part of the lecture, I will tell you more about the history of writing and the different writing systems that we know from history. So you know already that in order for writing to develop, what first happened was we started using pictograms, which then would develop into ideograms, logograms, and finally, each symbol would represent a specific syllable, a sound. And the first known writing system, the oldest writing system that we know, was cuneiform. And this began being used around 3,500 years before Common Era in Mesopotamia, which right now is the area where Iraq is. The name cuneiform comes from straight lines and wedges that were used in the symbols. And this writing system, the oldest writing system that we know, was a combination of logographs, so symbols that stand for words, and syllabic writing, so symbols that stand for syllables. And you can see the examples of symbols here. You have various words, and the oldest versions of them are on the left, and that's from over 3,000 years BC. And now the newer versions from 1,000 years BCE. And you can see that in the beginning, the symbols really did look exactly like the thing that they meant. So they were really pictograms. They developed from pictograms. So a head looks like a head, and barley looks like barley, and a bird looks like a bird. Now, then when they became associated with particular syllables, they kept changing, and in the end, they really don't look like any pictures, right? They're just symbols for sounds. Another very old writing system that we know developed around 3,000 years BCE was hieroglyphics that I'm sure you've heard of. This was the writing system used by Egyptians who possibly were influenced by the cuneiform writing system. And hieroglyphs, even though they look like pictures as we know them, they were really syllable characters. So each symbol represented one syllable. And you can see examples here. So you see that these also came from pictograms. At some point, they meant the word that is drawn, but really here they're no longer that. Every symbol is associated with a syllable. So the symbol of a bird, for example, we read as ur. And you could put these symbols together to make words. So hieroglyphics was using symbols for syllables. They had different symbols than cuneiform, but there was one more important difference. So even though they were both syllabic, in cuneiform, one symbol stood for both vowel and consonant. So if there was a consonant, say k, and the vowel a, the syllable was always ka. Now in hieroglyphics, the hieroglyphs only represented the consonant. So you will have k, and this could be the syllable ka or ke or ku. So they could represent one or two or three different consonants, but the vowel didn't matter. Vowels were not represented. Now, a little bit later, in around 2000 BCE, people in China developed a writing system, and they started using symbols for entire words, so logograms. Then some of them were combined to represent different ideas. They now don't look as simple as pictograms after years and years of development, but you can still see some resemblance, and every symbol is one word. So some of them are kind of look like what they represent, and those are the pictographic ones. You can see them at the top of this slide. So a woman kind of looks like, a symbol for the word woman kind of looks like a person with legs and arms. Then you also have ideographs, so symbols representing ideas. And finally, you have symbols that combine different pictograms or ideograms. So for example, the word good has a symbol for woman and a symbol for a child, right? So you can put these ideas together, but one symbol means one word. And for a Chinese person today, these symbols, they don't think about, oh, this looks like a woman and a child. They know it as a separate symbol for the word good, because the symbols became associated with specific words. Now, an even newer writing system in 1500 BCE was developed by Phoenicians, and that was the West Semitic syllabary. If you remember from our lecture on language families, Arabic, Hebrew, and some other languages all come from West Semitic. And so the West Semitic syllabary represented, like hieroglyphs, only consonants. And then even later on, Greeks borrowed this syllabary around 900 years BCE, and then they added more symbols to represent vowels. So Greek was the first alphabet to represent consonants and vowels separately. That was later borrowed by the Romans, and that is now the alphabet that we use, for example, in English. So the first writing systems were all syllabic, and then the first alphabetic writing system was Greek. That means that one symbol stood for one sound, not for one syllable. So you have a separate symbol for k and a separate symbol for a. Meanwhile, the West Semitic syllabary stayed in the Middle East, and Arabic still represents syllables mostly, with some vowel symbols. And you can see how our writing developed all the way from the hieroglyphs through the Greek alphabet and Roman and symbols we use today. And this is how we got to a place where we are now. So it all started with just using pictures, and in time they became letters. And it started by representing words, and in time it started to represent sounds. So right now, the different writing systems that come from that history are alphabets, which represent all sounds, consonants, and vowels. So English, Old Latin alphabet, right? Korean, Cyrillic, used in Russia. They're all alphabets. And the other type of writing systems are abjads, which represent only consonants. Sometimes there are some vowels that are represented, but not many. So Arabic is an example of an abjad, also Hebrew, Aramaic. With both alphabets and abjads, the advantage is that you need only a few symbols. So an alphabet will have around 30 symbols for 30 different sounds, and you can put these symbols together to represent every possible word. So when you learn to write, you only have to write the 30 symbols, and you can write any word you want. Now, in a logographic writing system, such as Chinese, one symbol is one word. So you have to know as many symbols as you know words. So an educated Chinese person will know around 8,000 characters or symbols. To just function in daily life, you need around 2,000 to 3,000. So you learn the writing just like the sound. You have to remember the symbol and the sound together for every word. Now, for a writing system that represents individual sounds like Arabic, you'll only need around 30 letters, and then you can represent thousands of words with that. Now, the next step in the development of writing is what we're witnessing now. When we write a lot, but not quite like we used to, we write a lot in texting. And that has also changed the way that we write. And this is what we're going to talk about in the next lecture. Thank you.